All right, we all set? All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the last session of what's been a good 2 days so far. The topic for today is we need to talk about a legal charter, sometimes referred to as grey charter, but I think we should call it what it is, which is illegal charters. We're all aware of the issue and it does real damage to our industry, so it seems like it's going to be a hot topic. In the session, first we're going to talk a little bit about why illegal charters exist in the first place. Then we'll follow on to talk about some of the risks that they pose to operators and the wider industry. And then we'll close out the session by discussing what lessons we might be able to learn from some of the other markets around the world and how they've tackled the problem. I've been lucky enough to be joined by a great experienced panel who are very passionate and each bring a unique perspective to this topic as well. So with that, I will hand over to our panelists to introduce themselves.
Yeah, thank you, Brenton. This is Kay from Aviation. We have been operating different AOC operations for more than 55 years. So it's great that we can have this topic here.
Hi, Stefan from Air7 Asia and also Osprey Aviation. Not quite 55 years like TAG, 5 years, and 2 AOCs now. And yeah, we're continually expanding. And I did promise Alistair that I would behave today.
But not too much.
Hello, everyone. This is Maggie from Luxaviation. With 60 years experience, Luxaviation been manages 210 aircraft around the world, and we have 13 AOC across different regions. So we provide a different region with the safety travel, luxury travel across different regions that hopefully can give more insight for you guys today.
Hi, my name's James Jordan. I'm a partner at HFW. I specialize in providing legal services to the aviation industry and with a particular focus on regulatory and contentious matters that impact the private aviation sector.
Hi, I'm James Coak from Titan Aviation. I look after the charters for Titan Aviation. We've got operations across the Middle East, India, and Asia. Yeah, we look forward to discussing this subject.
All right, perfect. So, I mean, why don't we just sort of kick it off with the first question of why do illegal charters exist in the first place?
Yeah, I think sometimes people don't know they have to and don't know how to differentiate the illegal charter. And I would think if anyone role in the charter service chain that is out of the knowledge scope, then illegal charter will exist. Like I bring up an example, and recently I catch up with a new batch of charter sales agents, and they told me they thought TAG Aviation is operating charter illegally under Part 91. The only reason is because all our charter aircraft require owner's approval. So it's mind-blowing because the logic is not correct. And this is and then after that, I found that it's quite common in this region. And it's not correct that they only determine their charter, is it on compliance only by their owner preference. If it requires owner's approval, it should be rely on the compliance and the safety standard.
It's a very good question, and it's something we could get bogged down the next hour talking about. But why does it exist? Well, because people can. Asia is, and especially Singapore, is a very unique area for charter with no local AOC. There's at least 6, 7, 8 different tails, different regulators, very hard to regulate, and clients just, well, they do it because they can, and we'll get into this a lot later, but one of the biggest culprits are the dodgy brokers that sell deliberately Part 91 charters.
From my perspective, I hear that always the owner didn't understand what is the illegal charter between the legal charter. So they're always undertaking the risk behind. The second thing that is the charter customer even didn't know what is the differences as well. So it makes the differences that they don't know. They just want to get the aircraft because when they see the aircraft, it look like the same, but they didn't know that there are a lot of compliance that had to be fulfilled, in order for them to be put it on the charter market.
Well, Stefan said because it can. I'm going to say because it's allowed to. So with a kind of legal and regulatory hat on as the lawyer on the panel, I think what's happening in the region and around the various regulators is there's either a lack of knowledge within those regulators or a lack of willingness to really address this, and the legal framework which fits around all of this isn't as sophisticated as it could be, and we can come back to that.
And I think when you look at this, the why also is what's the motivation behind it, and it's often to do with money and finances behind it. So the why could be motivated by financial motivation, perhaps cheaper charters and cost savings, obviously, by the owners on Part 91 rather than Part 135.
Yeah, so I guess, James, I can probably ask you this question then. So obviously the financial aspect is maybe why some operators are tempted to do illegal charters rather than get the proper certification. I mean, what safeguards would you say that you highlight, or what safeguards do you highlight to reassure owners about the right compliance?
I think the important thing when speaking to the owner is obviously there's regulations involved in this, and operating safely when doing charters is the most important thing. So that's why the expenses are higher for the owners. They've got to make sure that the necessary training is in place, often double the amount of training compared to, say, Part 91. So it's making sure they understand why the costs are that much higher to be on a proper air operating certificate rather than a private operating certificate. And obviously, that once they're aware of that, they then can appreciate the importance of operating legally.
Yeah. Maggie, did you want to add to that?
For me, I think that most of the customer owner that they doesn't have the idea what is it, and then we have to educate since they buy the aircraft. So you have to tell them that they have to take the responsibility. If they didn't know about the risk, they're just thinking, I want to save the cost. And then they will go for the illegal charter. And because they think that they won't take any responsibility after that the problem having exists. Yeah.
Stefan, did you have any on that?
Pretty much what the other guys have said. I mean, compliance costs. It's as simple as that. It is more expensive to operate Part 135. Starts with us as the AOC holders. It's not cheap to get an AOC. It's not cheap to maintain an AOC. And when you've got an owner, wanting a management deal, when you tell them the cost for the 135 as opposed to operating Part 91, it's nearly double the cost at times. It scares people off. But that doesn't mean it's not the right way to do it. And unfortunately, we've lost quite a few aircraft over the years because we just turn around and we say, you clearly want Part 91, but you clearly want to do charters, not for us.
Okay, so taking a step away from the owners or the operators, looking at it from a passenger or a client perspective as well, I mean, why do we think that end clients or passengers are tempted to book illegal charters? Is it that they are simply unaware, or that they are booking, or are there other factors, would you say, in drivers?
I also come up another case with some industry partners. We lost the deal to an illegal charter, and even all the parties indirectly and directly told the end passengers the negative impact, like the reputation damage or the insurance coverage they're gonna lost, but they still insisted because they think that's the preferred aircraft options they want. So sometimes I think it showcases some clients, some passengers, they determine they have their safety standard, they have their own standard, but their own standard is just because of their preferred aircraft type without the necessary compliance and all the safety standard that we have to be regulated. So, and after all, I think back to the square is like the culture. Yeah, the culture here, they all have their own standard. They think if I can fly that aircraft type with such a lowest cost, that would be better and it's safe, then they go ahead. So I would say it's always because of the culture here is not strong enough to, bring this topic illegal charter to the passengers.
Can I just jump in on there? And that is a very good point, because we've got a client that's turned into a very good friend of mine who, the first time I met him, he was he wanting to do a charter, just a simple charter, and we weren't available. And he told me about another aircraft that he had that he could get, and it was a Phantom. And now I know there's no Part 135 Phantom, so I looked into it for him, and I said to him, "Hey mate, this is an illegal charter." And he's like, "And what does that mean?" So I went through all the scenarios on Part 135 versus 91. He wanted to fly, he knew the risks, and he still did it. So even when you educate clients, sometimes it still happens. However, this one, it's quite a nice one because he now owns a 7X and it's on an AOC and he's doing it properly. So a little bit of education.
So a little bit of education might help long run.
Along the way.
Well, give me some idea that most of the clients coming to us, that like the new customer, they will ask a lot of questions when we're dealing with the European that compared to the Asia customer. European will be asking a lot of licensing you have, what kind of the status you got. So we have to provide all the information. When the Asia customer come to us, they ask, we want a cheaper one. We treat the option that we can get, and want a nice aircraft, want a new aircraft. But however, the demand is that more than the supply here is less compared to the Europe or in US. And also here in the region in Asia, we don't have the open sky agreement. So that's why the sky is not open to everyone to be apply the permit under the corporate charter permit. So that's why I always come to the problem that got the people will be apply for the Part 91 permit for flying that trip, even that the operator got the AOC. So this is how the regional problem that we have, and this demand and supply problem as well.
Okay, so moving on to the risks and the impacts, James might start with James Jordan. Might start with you on this one. I mean, how big of an issue would you say illegal charter is specifically in APAC, and how does it affect the safety culture and overall trust within the industry?
I mean, this is the big problem that we all have, is really kind of getting to grips with what the actual numbers are in relation to illegal charter. I think most of us that are involved in the industry and, trying to do business properly, and my clients are trying to do business properly, they perceive it to be, quite a significant issue. We conducted a survey, my law firm, HFW and ASBA in 2021, a survey of the industry to see what industry perceptions were. The perception of the industry was that more than 30% of private flights in Asia, in the APAC region, are illegal charter flights. That's the industry perception. We'll never know whether there's any truth in that, but that's a significant number. Of the countries where the respondents felt it was the biggest issue, it was Indonesia, Malaysia, mainland China, and then 71% of the respondents to our survey said that their businesses had been negatively impacted by illegal charter. So I think those numbers, it shows that, certainly the perception is that it's a quite significant issue for the private aviation industry. In terms of, the risks that it creates for the sector, there have been a number of high-profile accidents. So it does come down to that at the end of the day, that, if you are comparing Part 91 and Part 135, and Part 91 is being used for revenue-generating flights with the public, it is creating a real and genuine safety risk and a risk to life. Stefan, did you want?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I'm going to segue away from the question a little bit. We're a Part 135 N-registered operator, and we're lucky enough we're Argus Platinum. Now, on the other side to Part 91 to Part 135 Argus Platinum, the safety standards don't get any higher. Now, we get, I'd say on average, 2 jobs a month, mainly from American clients who require an Argus Platinum rating. So that's the other spectrum to Part 91. Yeah, it costs money, but it does come as a great advantage to us every now and again.
And James, did you have sort of viewer perspective on that?
Yeah, I think most of the points are covered there, but obviously, when speaking to other operators, which I've done quite a lot of, what they're often coming up with is they'll face that they're quoting on a flight, and then suddenly an aircraft will appear that is obviously much cheaper, and it'll often turn out that that's a Part 91 operator, and they are obviously getting the business. So that's a massive issue for the commercial operations of the operators who are doing things the right way, and I think that's one of the main problems for most of the legal operators here, seeing that happen. So it is a big problem.
Yeah. So, Stefan, you mentioned that just before that there was a friend of yours who wasn't aware he was potentially booking a legal charter, but...
No, he knew damn well what he was booking.
He wasn't sure in the beginning until you told him.
Yes,
and explained all the risks to him, but he went ahead and did it anyway. I mean, what are the biggest risks to a potential passenger who is taking that action?
I mean, as everyone said along here, I mean, Part 91, Part 135, we all know the Part 135 training standards are a little bit more stringent. Now, we know 9 times out of 10, a Part 91 flight's going to be fine. The problem is when it's not. And you look in the UK at what happened. The last crash in this region was a Premier up in KL, and you've just got to read the accident report on that. That wasn't a legal charter. It's sad that people will put... it's when you know you're doing it that it becomes a real issue. And again, I'll go back. It is educating, and unfortunately, everyone in this room is involved in this industry, and I'm sure you all know of someone that's had an experience, maybe not with an illegal charter, but you've had an experience. But the onus is, what do you do about it? And I know that's covered a bit later with a few other questions.
Yeah. So it's just I guess outside of the potential safety risk as well, are there any other particular risks, I would say, from the passenger perspective of engaging in this?
I'll throw one up there straight away. It's obviously the financial... let me start again. Obviously the financial side. So when you're dealing with a Part 135 operator, obviously, the payments, it's all legitimate. I mean, who knows what's happening on a Part 91 charter? Who knows if your money's safe? You get a cancellation, you get a refund. You get a crash, you get a refund.
And James, did you have something to add there as well?
Well, I was just going to say for the owner-operator, not necessarily for the passenger, but one thing that they kind of must be aware of is that, firstly, on their insurance arrangements, if they're engaging in a legal charter, they're potentially invalidating them. So if they had it doesn't necessarily need to be a major accident, but if they had a damage to the aircraft or some form of passenger claim, and it was on an illegal charter, there may be no insurance coverage. That can be significant also for any passengers that are on board the aircraft, because again, if they had sustained an injury, they want to bring a legal claim against the operator, and there is no insurance, then potentially that means that there wouldn't be any compensation available. That may depend on how deep the pockets are of the operator and whether they can self-fund any legal claim that's made against them. But the invalidation of the insurance could be a real issue for both the passenger and for the owner-operator. The same also applies when you're looking at possibly looking at leasing and financing arrangements. If those arrangements have provisions in them, then again, they could be invalidating their financing arrangements, which again could have severe consequences.
So just a question for the operators here as well. I mean, how has your company specifically taken action to try and address the issue? Maggie, you're okay to start?
Yeah, so whenever the customer come to us that they want to put the aircraft on their AOC, they wanted to generate some revenue, we start the education process to them. So what you can do the proper way. So it's kind of investment, but this investment can compensate some of your operation costs. But you have to understand that your crew have to be training twice a year. Insurance have to be covered, and also the safety requirement internally, you have to follow the manual according different jurisdiction as well. So this kind of the education that we have to mention that the differences between the private operation and the commercial operation. So from that side, the client, most of the client, because they are the very popular company or listed company, they don't want them to be on the spot when got the problem. So most of them, they will follow the rules. But in the region, we always have this problem that is the client didn't understand, and we heard a lot of things is that the other operator or management company didn't come up with this kind of the information going to them. It's purely not because of they didn't know. It's purely because of generally in the market, the awareness is not up to standard like in Europe or in US. This is what we see.
Maggie, that's great, and I agree. And Brenton, you asked, what have we done about it? Has it happened? Well, unfortunately, we had a large cabin on our AOC that was being a little bit naughty, and we had to cut it off the AOC. It was a very bitter pill to swallow. It was financial, it was legal, it was ugly, but we do the right thing.
Yeah, I think we all do the same right things. And for tech aviation, we also cope with our internship program. It's also another education because we believe it's one of the origin, like education to the owners, to the industry partners, and also we industry. We send out the message to the university environment. Like we will bring up of course, the topic of illegal charter, but also we will introduce them and tell them the basis of aviation is safety and compliance. That's what we want to, start from the very beginning.
James, did you have anything to add to that, or?
No, not particularly.
No.
I think that's covered all of it.
Yep. Okay, cool. Well, let's move on to talk a little bit about what we could potentially do better, or what the industry could do better, or some lessons from how this has been addressed in other markets. So, first question here is: do we feel that the industry is doing enough self-policing, or are we simply relying too much on the regulators to solve the issue by itself?
Can I first?
Yes, go for it, mate.
Firstly, the regulator have to do something else, but at the same time, in the industry, what I can learn from the Europe markets that we can't see any program or education program, even from the university, have talking about the business aviation. This is a personal experience that recently I do a final project report with one of the university students in Hong Kong. So his final report is doing the business aviation in Hong Kong, and I come up with the charter market that about the illegal charter, and then come up with the reason that what is illegal charter? The question asking to me, they have no idea what is it. So it come up that from the education side, it didn't have too much about what is it. So we have to start the education from that side. And on the other side, that from Europe side, they got the Air Charter Association that provide the brokerage certificate program for educate the new joiner, so that they can learn a little bit that, because when they got the resources, provide that training to all the new joiner in the industry.
I can jump in here. The second part of the question is, what can we learn from other markets? Now, Asia, we all love Asia, a melting pot of everything. You look to the US, you've got pretty much charter aircraft flying around under one tail. Similar in Europe, same in Australia. We're a melting pot here. We're not just a melting pot of culture, a melting pot of everything. We're a melting pot of registrations. Now, I'd hate to think how many registrations and tails there actually are out there, which makes it very, very hard to learn from other industries because they don't have to cope with what we have to cope with here.
I mean, and just to feed into that point, Stefan, because it's something that you and I discussed a couple of years ago, is, there have been a number of people in the industry that have been trying to engage with regulators, and, without being too critical of any single regulator, I don't think they're doing enough on this issue in the Asia-Pacific region. I sat on the board of ASBA a couple of years ago. I'm no longer on the board, but Stefan and I discussed an issue. We went to one of the...
Heated discussion.
We went to one of the regulators, told them about this illegal charter issue that Stefan had become aware of, and their response was, it's an unregistered aircraft, you need to take it up with the FAA. That response isn't incorrect, but it forgets the key principle. Each regulator has a responsibility for safety and regulatory issues within its own jurisdiction. And to simply wash its hands of this issue because it was an unregistered aircraft was really not an acceptable answer. I'm not obviously going to reveal which regulator it was, but that's the kind of challenge the industry faces when it's dealing with regulators in this region. And to me, that type of answer is just not acceptable if this issue is ever going to get resolved.
James, agree. That was it was perfect, and we got there. And I know this is a later question, but you've really opened the door for this one. If you know me, you know if I see something wrong, I report it. CAAS has this fantastic thing called Talsera, anonymous reporting. I abuse it. It's fantastic. And I've got to say, and I've got to give CAAS credit, it may not be perfect, but I certainly see increased ramp checks happening at Seletar now. I heard of the first damp testing, drug and alcohol testing the other day at Seletar. I think that was the first. But CAAS have certainly ramped up ramp checks, which I'd like to think is a direct result of us, letting CAAS know that there are, certainly issues in the region. Is it easy to catch an illegal charter on a ramp check? No, it's not. But at least it's a step forward.
But what we do need to see the first of, Stefan, is we need to see the first fine or regulatory enforcement action, because until that happens, until illegitimate operators are hitting their pockets, I personally don't think we'll see change. The FAA are doing a lot in this area. There's been fines as high as $6 million that have been issued for illegal charter. Excluding Australia, I'm not aware of a single regulatory fine that's been issued by a regulator in this region. Until that changes, there's going to be, this problem will persist.
So I might just go back to something you said before, Stefan. I mean, Asia is a very complex market, obviously. But that said, I think I would sort of challenge the fact that it's so complex and so different from every other market that there's not lessons to be learnt, at least in some fashion.
There's lessons to be learnt, but it's those regulators that have to come over here and be prepared to enforce it. Yep. We've got T7 here, we've got Caymans here, we've got 2-reg here, we've got a 2-reg AOC. You've all met Sid here. We are very vocal with Sid. We want to see 2-reg come here and police any 2-reg aircraft that are coming here doing the wrong thing. It's not easy, but I think because this is such a melting pot and it's so hard, unless the actual regulators come here and talk to CAAS and work together, as James said, until there's a fine, nothing is ever going to change. But I think we really have to put the onus on the tail number rego.
Yeah, and I also think when we look at the other market, as what you asked, like in the state, we can easily find a lot of, like recent years, we have a lot of recorded case with listed penalties and fines. But in Asia, we always say there's a lot of illegal charter, but there's none of the cases that reported with the listed penalties. So I think one more step we can do is, publish those, what's the penalties, because all this are just what we said, we lost the insurance coverage and also seize the assets, but we cannot find this information from the authority resources. So when we can find it, when we can locate it, and then point it to our clients, then it will be easier for us.
And just to add to that, it's also the media attention is just not here. You look in the UK, help me with the Salah, the Salah crash. Look at the media attention and what happened with that. You just go up the road to the Premier that crashed, that the report says it was an illegal charter. A little bit of media. It just doesn't have the power in this region. And that's us as an industry. Somehow we as a group have to get this happening and stamp out the illegal charter.
So I might jump to one of the questions here. I mean, Asia, obviously a lot of different authorities all over the place. What do you think the chances are of them coming together and coming up with a common alignment and agreement? Anyone want to take that question?
Well, someone needs to take the lead. And for me, like I've been based in Hong Kong and Singapore over nearly, I think, 16 years in Asia now. I would say that one of those jurisdictions needs to take the lead on this because they can, Singapore especially, can be a leader in this region. It understands the issue. But if we, compare the position here to, say, in the US, you go onto the FAA website, you will see pages and pages of information about a legal charter, whether that's about explaining what a legal charter is or detailing enforcement actions. There's a huge amount of information. That same amount of information doesn't exist here. I think one of the questions was, what can regulators do? I mean, that is a start. If they don't want to go in and, issue enforcement notices, that's fine. But, educating the industry, the public, as to what actually a legal charter is and the harms that it causes, that is a start. And, that would be an easy step, in my mind, for regulators to take.
And I mean, you said somebody needs to take the charge there. I mean, what role would you say that industry associations such as ASPA have in potentially helping lead the drive with the associations?
I mean, ASPA does play a very, very important role. And, I'm a big believer in what industry associations can achieve. One of the problems ASPA has faced, and it's connected to one of the points that we've already discussed, is because of the fragmentation of the regulatory environment in Southeast Asia especially, trying to get traction with each of the individual regulators is quite challenging, it's quite difficult. And as an example, when I was more closely involved with ASPA, even when engaging with CAAS, because ASPA has to be registered somewhere as an industry body and it's registered in Hong Kong, even that itself created a problem. We compare that to the experience that the MBAA has in the US. Well, they're really only liaising with one regulator, with the FAA. It's an easier experience for them. They're based in the US, they're liaising with the US regulator. One of the challenges ASPA faces is that it has about 20 different regulatory authorities that it has to try and maintain relationships with, some of which are not familiar with ever having to deal with industry associations because it's not part of their broader culture within that jurisdiction.
Oh, sorry, me again. Alistair, could you throw a survey up? Has anyone actually reported an illegal charter, illegal activity? Yes, there's industry bodies we refer to, but every single person on this panel I know has known of an illegal charter or an illegal activity. I mean, I put my hand up, I report them. Did you report the one that you did?
Recently, yes.
Yes, see, there's two. Have you reported?
Yes, of course.
See, we're winning already. This is what we need to do. We need to report as an industry at something. And then we need to push people like ASBAA, other industry leaders, and try and get it working as a team. But, and I am adamant that if you see something illegal and you don't report it to either the tail registration or where it's landing CAA, what hope is there? Buck starts with us.
Yeah, so that, I guess, drives on to the next question is what responsibilities do operators and brokers as well have in combating illegal charters? Is it, I mean, obviously reporting. Will we say it's clear? Is there a common understanding within the industry of even who or how to report when we see things like this?
I think it depends on the broker itself and how responsible they are. Obviously, there's some brokers who might use different rules and go ahead and book charters knowingly that are illegal. So obviously, they're not going to report themselves, and it's how we stop that happening, because that leads to a big problem where the end user can often be unaware that they're actually flying on an illegal charter, and that's a huge problem at that point. So as an operator, you can often see that happening in the fact that, okay, you'll be quoting on a charter and then you'll see that it's gone to someone else at a much lower rate. So I think, there has to be a very clear whistleblowing platform for that. And the complications here is we've got so many regulatory bodies. Which part does it go to? Does it go to T7 if it's a T7 operator, or does it go to the the airports that they're operating and the regulatory authorities. So it's quite a tough one to have a single whistleblowing option.
That's where we get busy having to multiple report.
Yeah.
So be it.
Yes, that's true. Such as like the operation like out of Singapore or in Hong Kong or in the region. So we have to report a lot of the authority at the same time. And recently I have talked to one of the authorities that about also the awareness problem that even authority doesn't understand illegal charter. This is the problem here we have. So I think in the future that we have to do more about the publicity, about the, what is it? Get together, talk to the authority together, make the awareness to the public. This is what we have to do.
So there's a question on here as well. I mean, do we feel that there are any operators out there who are, I'm not doing business with that broker. We know they're a dodgy broker. I'm not interested in doing business, or is it more that, well, they book with me legally sometimes. What they do outside of that is not my concern as well. I mean, how are we dealing? I mean, I think everyone here knows specific companies who engage more often than others. And yeah, is everyone still working with them anyway, is the question.
I don't mind answering curly questions. Leslie might throw something at me, our charter sales director. Yes, there are some brokers out there that are unscrupulous, but when that word, when they're coming through us, it's legitimate. Now, why should we then punish ourselves by not taking work in the future? Now, I cannot confirm or deny that I may or may not report the aircraft that I know are Part 91 where they're doing the illegal charters for that broker, but why should we lose out when we do the right thing?
Yeah, I also think we don't have to stay away from them because we have to go into them to tell them what's the right things. So I don't think we should be being so passive.
Yeah, as a big operator, we always educate the people what have to do in the right time, right things. So we always touch on some of the new joiner, even some of the doing something wrongly, but during the conversation, they may not understand, but throughout the conversation, they will learn a lot. And this is how the Asia market, we are tackle the problem here.
I was going to say, does that mean there's a call for brokerage to become regulated? Is that something that could be an option down the road? As they, they're heavily involved in the decision-making progress and can actually be the cause of this actually happening. So maybe there's a cause to have proper regulated brokerage.
Yep. Well, there's a good question there. Then, I mean, if we do feel the issue is down to the scrupulous brokers, I mean, is there a licensing or some sort of who would be responsible for?
That's a fantastic idea, but how? I mean, with a mobile phone, you can be sitting on a beach in Bali being a broker. And how would you ever regulate it?
I think it's a good idea having the licensing the broker that like property got a broker license as well. So why not from the aircraft charter service that got the license, even that can take the certificate from some of the association, like ASPA, can thinking about something that provide the cost for the broker to get the license or get the certificates to self-regulate ourselves.
And I think, there's one other thing as well, obviously. If you look at the education that goes on in the US and the amount of media awareness of this type of illegal charter, what it's led to is companies like Wyvern and ArgUS obviously offering brokers to become Wyvern approved. And that's often driven. So when you start getting charter requests from US corporates, we often see them requesting that the broker or the operator is approved by a certain body or even ISPOW approval. They want to see those documents. And we see a lot more from US clients because the end client is educated in the safety parts related to charter. So I think with education and more media publication here in Asia, we'll probably start to see those questions being asked by the end user.
Yeah, I think it will work because like in Hong Kong, if we need to do the travel agent service, we need to arrange the travel service, not only like the commercial airline ticket, but I also think that charter service is part of the travel. So in Hong Kong, we have to regulate it. We have to apply for a travel agent license, which I'm not sure if all of the charter service broker in Hong Kong, they have to do it, but at least TED have one.
So we're getting close to the end of the day now as well, so looking like to just sort of tie this off a little bit. I mean, if there was just one measure that we could implement tomorrow, for example, what would we say would have the most impact if we can go through asking each of you?
Yeah, I would say RAM check every day, everywhere.
I'll tell you what, I don't need to answer my question. That was beautiful.
Beautiful.
I pretty agree with that, Kate. Yeah, when check, we didn't see any things in the region. Yeah, but I think they have to be done by the authorities, not going to checking with the jet, checking all the licensed operator, is checking all the private flights.
We need a new regulation or law which says exactly what illegal charter is, clearly defining it and clearly setting out what the penalties will be for those individuals and operators which engage in illegal charter. It's too difficult to understand the regulations at the moment. Most people in the industry don't understand them. I spend hours looking at them as a lawyer. They're not clear. The punishments for breaking the regulations are not clear. So we need a new law which deals with this, and then we can start enforcement action.
And mine was, I was going to say ramp
Ramp
checks and fines. I think ramp checks are great, but there has to be something happening to the operators who actually break the rules, and that's the key part. You can't police something without a fine or a follow-up for that particular operator, or even broker. So that would be the key thing.
Okay, well, thank you all very much for joining.
I did say, Alistair, I'd behave, but I've got to run because I've got a bus to catch to my hangar.
Thank you.